welcome back to another vlog. Some of you might have seen that recently I asked for recommendations of which books I should bring with me on holiday, which brings me nicely onto the fact that this week I'm not vlogging from my usual home in quite often grey and rainy Yorkshire in England. I'm actually vlogging from the south of France, Nice to be specific, which is so exciting. This happens to be mine and Jay's first trip abroad since 2019, which also funnily enough was a trip to France. We went to Paris in January 2019. We didn't have any more holidays booked that year, and then obviously unbeknownst to us at the time, we were then about to enter into about 3 years of lockdowns and travel restrictions. So this year is the first time that we have been able to plan a proper international holiday in what feels like forever. So we are very excited to be in the south of France, although ironically, since I referenced how often grey and rainy England is, we seem to have inadvertently picked one of the worst weeks ever to travel to Nice, because although Nice is somewhere that has, I think, typically 300 days of sun for the year, the first 2 days of our trip have been pouring rain all day long, which has been a little bit disappointing to say the least, because we are only here for 6 days total, and so we've kind of had to waste 2 of those days. We still went out and tried to make the most of them, but of course it's just not quite as enjoyable when A, you've brought summer clothes with you, so you are getting soaked to the bone, and B, you just can't enjoy all of the sights as much when it is literally torrential downpour. So the first 2 days of our trip we went to Monaco, and we managed to find a sports bar to watch this week's F1 race, which was such a relief after walking around in the rain for hours to finally find somewhere that was showing the race. And then yesterday we made a trip to Antibes, which was so beautiful. We really enjoyed that day. Again, freezing cold and rainy, but Antibes is quite a historical town. They have a castle and these beautiful like city walls, so even though it was a terrible weather day, we still managed to make the most of it. And today, our third full day, is finally the sort of weather that we were expecting. It is sunshine, it's meant to be like 20 degrees, and I'm so excited to be going out in a t-shirt and not wearing a raincoat today. So today kind of feels like our first official day of the holiday, even though technically it is the third, and we had planned to be doing like quite a lot of walks and hikes. So today we are heading to Villefranche on the train, which is such a beautiful ride because it goes right along the coast, and there is meant to be a really nice hike that we're going to be doing there. So very excited to be officially starting the holiday. But since I started this vlog by mentioning the books that I had asked for recommendations for, I thought I would let you know what I'm reading on this trip. I'll start with the only book that I've actually begun yet, which is the one that I started on the plane journey, and that is Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ang. Now, I read Little Fires Everywhere by the same author last year at some point, and I thought it was incredible, but for some reason I just hadn't started this other book yet. But when I asked for recommendations, this one was by far the most highly recommended, and I started it on the plane, and I can 100% see why, because it is really interesting. I'll very briefly read the blurb just for anyone who doesn't know what the book is about, and it says, "Lydia is dead, but they don't know this yet. So begins this exquisite novel about a Chinese-American family living in 1970s small-town Ohio. Lydia is the favourite child of Marilyn and James Lee, and her parents are determined that she will fulfil the dreams that they were unable to pursue. But when Lydia's body is found in the local lake, the delicate balancing act that has been keeping the Lee family together is destroyed, tumbling them all into chaos." It's so interesting. So it starts with that first line, Lydia is dead, but they don't know this yet. And then we have lots and lots of different perspectives taking us throughout the life of this family. So we have Marilyn and James, her parents, and we get to learn about how they met, how their relationship as an interracial couple in, I think, the 1950s was when they met, caused a lot of trouble between their families and resulted in Marilyn, who was American, no longer speaking to her mother, whereas James, who had lost his both parents, they kind of just like formed this family unit together. But then in doing so, and then in having an unexpected pregnancy, they kind of lost sight of what brought them together, which was actually kind of like academia and ambition, and instead just kind of settled into this mundane family life, which then resulted in, like, I guess a harbouring of unhappiness between them, but without actually ever really sort of like coming out and saying so. So we have this like typical family unit in one sense, but also like a lot of harboured resentment between this like couple, and then we have this pressure that is put on their children to succeed, and especially that is obviously seen through Lydia, and we see the view of their children as these like incredible things, which is obviously lovely from parents, but we see that the reality of how their children are perceived by other people, in the sense that Lydia is meant to be someone who doesn't actually have very many friends, is so different from what her parents thought of her. So we have this like very much ideal family life, but that has a lot of cracks beneath the surface, and that people don't really know too much about the people that they're meant to be closest to. And then of course we have the like revelation of Lydia's death, and then all of these secrets kind of coming out as a result of that, and it is just so interesting. On the plane I managed to read up to page 125, which is just under halfway, and I'm going to bring the book with me today while we go out on the train and just see if I can get a few pages read. But now that of course we have sunshine, we're hoping to be able to stop in some nice spots on beaches and even on the balcony on our Airbnb to get some more reading done. So with that said, welcome to the vlog, and let's go enjoy some sunny days in the south of France. Starting the holiday with such terrible weather, I think I'd kind of done damage control and convinced myself that it wasn't going to get any better, so that I wouldn't be disappointed if the whole week was kind of rainy and cloudy. But today exceeded all of my expectations because it has been so sunny, so warm, so beautiful all day long, and I feel like I've definitely caught the sun, which is a nice feeling considering that I spent the first 2 days of the trip shivering in a cardigan, which is not what I expected from the south of France. But we also ended up having such a great day today, not just because of the weather, but because we went to our favourite place of the trip so far, which was Villefranche. I think Villefranche is one of the nicest places I've visited in general, because I feel like it had a really nice blend of obviously being by the coast, having some really beautiful like historical architecture, and then also some nice trails to go hiking on. So when we arrived first thing this morning, we did this hike that takes you right from like down by the sea up to this castle fortress thing called Mont Albon, I think it's called, and you basically hike up right from the coast through this like beautiful forest trail, which was so gorgeous, and then you end up right on this top where there is this like old castle building and the most beautiful view of the coast, which you can see like right out towards where Monaco is, and it was just absolutely incredible. A tough hike for sure, especially in the heat, but just a really beautiful one, and it wasn't too busy either, which I think was nice considering that obviously down by the coast along the entire south of France is very touristy and there are lots of people everywhere, so it was kind of nice to get up and away from all of that busyness and just like enjoy the view from a slightly quieter point. And then we got all the way back down to the sea. We ended up finding somewhere nice for some gelato. We actually left Villefranche, visited 2 other places, which was Ez, and I think the other place was called like Beaulieu-sur-Mer. I'm probably butchering that pronunciation, but both of those places were nice, but they didn't really have as much going on. So we then went back to Villefranche, ended up on the beach for a little bit, and then found a beautiful restaurant to have some dinner, and now we are back at the Airbnb for an evening of relaxation and reading on the balcony, because tomorrow for the first time we are going away from the coast and we're getting a train that takes us up through the mountains to a place called Entrevaux, which I think is in the middle of a national park and should have some nice hiking trails by like rivers, and I feel like it's going to be a different vibe from what we've had for the last few days, which is obviously seeing all of the beautiful like coastal towns, but we're excited to see a little bit more of like the more inland nature and see some more mountains, because we can see them all in the distance, and we're excited to kind of go out and explore a little bit more. And again, we're meant to have gorgeous weather all day tomorrow, but like I said, we're going to be doing a lot of walking, so going to spend the rest of the evening just here at the Airbnb, make the most of the evening sunshine and try and get some reading done on the balcony. So we ended up this morning, like I mentioned yesterday, getting a train up into the mountains, and we are in the most beautiful location. We came to somewhere called Bonjour, which we were hoping would have some good hiking trails. Jay uses an app and I can't remember what it's called, but basically it gives you lots of trails and hikes that people have done, so you kind of know if an area is good because people will have shared the routes that they've taken. We ended up getting here, have tried 3 different hikes, and all of them are blocked off, turned into private land, barricaded for some other kind of purpose. So basically it's kind of been a little bit of a fail. However, the train journey itself was just so worth visiting because this area is so beautiful, and since we're in the location it kind of seemed like a waste not to get up into the mountains. So we're now heading back to get the next train, which is probably in about 40 minutes or something like that. But the journey back is beautiful. We're going to start my next book because I finished Everything I Never Told You yesterday evening, and yeah, gotta try some things. Still can't get over these gorgeous mountains. I feel like living in the UK, we do have like really nice scenery, but the amount of hills that we have are just nothing in comparison to these big mountains. I think the biggest mountain in the UK, which is Ben Nevis, is smaller than this one behind us here, which is kind of crazy. So absolutely worth the trip, even though our plans to hike were definitely thwarted. But on the way down to get back to the train station, which is where we're waiting now, I nearly died because there was some kind of air raid siren which scared the living daylights out of me. I still have no idea what it was for, but there was some kind of memorial situation going on that looked like it might have been something to do with World War II. We're going to try and Google it later just to figure it out, but the air raid siren literally scared me to death. But now that we're back at the station, I've got out my next book and we're hoping to do some nice reading on the way back since we've got about a 2-hour journey. Now yesterday I obviously finished Everything I Never Told You and I thought that was such a good book. I actually think I preferred it to Little Fires Everywhere, which was also incredible, but yeah, it was a really great read for this holiday. So I'm hoping that my next book, Expectation, will keep those good vibes going, but I will obviously update you once I've done some reading. Another absolutely gorgeous day today, so I'm just sitting on the balcony enjoying some morning sunshine before we head out. But today is our last day here because we fly home tomorrow evening, so obviously main point on the agenda for the next few hours is just to make the most of all of the sunshine while we still have it, because once we land back in England tomorrow evening, I have a feeling it's going to be a whole lot grayer and a whole lot colder than it has been here for the last few days. So in honour of trying to make the most of the wonderful weather, we are sticking by the coast today and getting the train up to a place called Menton, which I don't know a huge amount about, but it has come up on so many TikToks and YouTube videos when I was looking for inspiration for this holiday, so I've got high expectations because it seems to be like a firm favourite for a lot of people. What I do know about it is that it's obviously by the coast, so there should be a really nice beach, and then there's also an old town which we love exploring, so it has all of the makings of a great location, and we're just going to head up there because even if it isn't that exciting or there's not that much to do, we can kind of just head back on the train and stop in Villefranche on the way home, so we know we've got like a backup option. But I do have quite high hopes that Menton is going to be really lovely. So that is the plan for today, but before we head out I thought I would give you a quick reading update because I actually surprised myself with how much I managed to read yesterday on the train back from Puget-Théniers, because I managed to get to page 182 of Expectation, which I was quite impressed with. First, I will say this book didn't really capture my attention. The blurb essentially is that we have 3 like old friends who met at university, or 2 of them I think met in school and then they met the 3rd one at university. They've been friends for a really long time and they had all these high expectations for where they were going to go with their life, and now they're in their late 30s and things just haven't gone as they expected, hence the title. So we're getting chapters from each of the 3 main characters' perspectives, and then also flashbacks to them when they were younger, kind of showing like where their life was heading versus where it's actually ended up and how things have kind of gone wrong or gone in a different direction than they thought it would. So at first I had thought I was really going to like this book, but then when I started it I didn't find any of the characters particularly likeable, which is always a shame, I think, because for me at least I'm very character driven, and so if I don't find myself invested in any particular character, I find it quite hard to be invested in the book and the plot in general. But as the book went on, I found myself connected to one of the three characters more than the other, and that is Kate. Kate is someone who ended up meeting someone and very quickly fell pregnant, got married, and ended up moving away from London to a coastal town, and suddenly feels like her life has gone in a completely different direction to where she expected it, and she thinks that she has kind of rushed into marriage just because she was pregnant, and now starting to worry that she's kind of married the wrong person and that things just haven't worked out how she was expecting. And I feel like she is the character that seems to be the most fleshed out and the most likeable, because you just feel like she's been taken by this whirlwind and she doesn't really know what's happened to her. We then have Hannah, who is a character who is Kate's like childhood best friend, and she ended up married to someone that she met when she was at university in a really happy relationship, but they've been struggling with infertility for quite a while now, and so you feel a lot of sympathy for Hannah. But my only struggle with her as a character, and I think this is kind of intentional, is that her struggle with infertility has become her only kind of personality trait, and so I feel a lot of empathy for her, but there isn't really a lot to root for aside from that she hopefully eventually manages to have a baby, which is what she really wants. But as a character there's not a lot of depth to her, because all you really have is that she really wants to be a mum and there's nothing kind of else going on there. So I'm struggling with her a little bit, but I do empathise with her as a character. And then the third person that we have is Lissa, and she is the character that I like the least. She is a struggling actor who had a lot of potential but didn't end up finding any roles, and then is just kind of struggling along trying to make do, but she just seems very self-centered and like she hasn't really progressed anywhere in life, but she doesn't seem to just be a very likeable character or a very good friend based on some of the things that she's done. So I'm over halfway into this book now, really excited to see where it goes, and I'm going to bring it with me today in case I have a chance to do any beachside reading or reading on the train, and I'll catch up with you hopefully when I've finished it and let you know what I thought. Bonjour, doves. It is officially home day today. We're just spending the morning cleaning up the Airbnb, ready to head out into Nice for the final time, and then our flight is at 5 PM this evening, so we have got quite a bit of day to still enjoy the city before we head off. We'll probably be sticking around until early afternoon and then go to the airport, so not really got many plans today. But the first and most important thing on the agenda is that we need to swing by a Starbucks, because I'm obsessed with these Starbucks You Are Here mugs. I know that is the most basic white girl thing to collect, but I absolutely love them. We all know I'm a big collector of mugs in general, and then I just feel like a mug for every place that you've travelled to is just a really nice thing to collect, and so I'm going to go and get the Nice one today, of course. I was hoping to get the Monaco one as well when we went there earlier in the week, but they were all sold out, which was a shame. But the Starbucks that we saw in Nice had absolutely loads, so hopefully I'll be able to get one of them. Then we're going to just head and enjoy the beach and hopefully get one more round of gelato, because there is this place in Nice called Finocchio, which just has the most insane array of like gelato flavours ever, and I really like them because they have little stickers in all of them that tell you the allergens, so it's really easy to know which ones are vegan, and they have so many sorbet flavours, it's kind of crazy. So gonna get some gelato, gonna go and enjoy the seaside for a little bit, and then it'll be time to go home. And I'm definitely sad to be leaving all of the sunshine, but also I'm so excited to go home and see my cat, who I think is probably going to be a little bit fatter than when I last saw him, because he has been looked after this week by my mum, and I have the feeling that she has been spoiling him a lot and giving him plenty of treats, so he's going to be a little bit fluffier than he was last time I saw him. But it's only been 1 week, but I feel like I haven't seen him in forever, and I'm so excited to squish him when I get home. So I thought I'd let you know what I'll be reading on the plane journey home, because of course I finished up reading Expectation yesterday. I ended up giving it 4 stars, and I was surprised about that, because for the most part I felt like it was kind of a 3-star book, but I did feel like the more you got to know the characters, the more invested you became. However, what I said yesterday about really being mostly invested in Kate and her story was definitely still true by the end. Hannah, still an empathetic character. Lissa, still a character that I didn't particularly like or care for. But on the whole, I appreciated what the story was trying to do in terms of kind of showing how life can go in many different directions, and sometimes the direction that you expect it to take isn't the direction that your path will actually end up going on, but sometimes that is for the best, even though at the time it could be really difficult to readjust what you thought your life was going to look like. And I felt like that was something that would probably be quite relatable for a lot of people, so it was an enjoyable story. I did, however, think the ending was a little bit rushed, which is why it kind of ended up sitting around 4 stars. If Goodreads could do 0.5 stars, I'd probably do 3.5 just to reflect that, but on the whole it did feel more like a 4-star than a 3-star for me. So really glad to finish that one, and then I've decided to bring a more of a like nostalgic reread for my final book of the holiday, and that is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, because I recently decided to start rereading this series, and of course this one is the second one, so that's where I'm at the moment. I've read this book at least 2 or 3 times before, so it is just going to be a really easy one to get into, and hopefully we'll make the plane journey go like that. So with that said, I'm going to finish off cleaning the Airbnb and then head off into Nice for a Starbucks and gelato.
The fall is coming, I can feel it. The breeze brings goosebumps to my skin.
I'm officially home, and most importantly reunited with my lovely little cat, who I missed a lot on my holiday, I have to say, because it was the first time we'd left him for more than one night. It was like, felt like a parent leaving my child. So very happy to be home, and as predicted, he was definitely looking a little bit chunkier on account of my mum giving him every single treat under the sun while we were away. But he had a good time, we had a good time, and now we're all reunited, which is the main thing. But I did want to finish up this vlog with a final reading update, because on the plane journey home I did finish up my 3rd read of the holiday, which was Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Now, as this was a reread for me, it was no surprise that I really enjoyed it, and I feel like the step up from book 1 with the Philosopher's Stone into book 2 with this one is quite noticeable. I feel like the first book is very much an introduction to the world, to the story, to the characters, but it goes by so quickly, whereas I feel like with this one, because you already have that kind of like backing of understanding all of the characters, you just get a lot more depth, and it is at least 100 pages longer, at least in the edition that I had here, than the Philosopher's Stone is. So I feel like you just get a lot more with this second book, and of course there is literally so much more to come, and I'm really enjoying this reread. But on the whole, I had such a wonderful time in terms of reading on my holiday. I feel like I picked such incredible books. If I had to choose a favourite, I think it would have to be my first read of the holiday, which was of course Everything I Never Told You, because I just think this book was really incredibly well done and just brought together such an authentic portrayal of grief and showed it from so many different angles and perspectives that I think it would be difficult for anyone to read this book and not be moved by it in some way, because it just shows so many different perspectives. Expectation, also incredible, although I feel like this was a bit more of a hit and miss for me. There were sections of the book and certain characters that I found really easy to connect with and found myself just like wanting more, and then other parts that I wasn't as keen on, but on the whole, just such a good collection of books for my holiday. And I know that I complained about the bad weather that I was going to be coming back to England with, but it is currently raining, and I feel like something about leaving the sunshine seems like it's going to be terrible, but then whenever I come home from a holiday and it is grey and rainy and I can curl up with a cup of tea and my lovely fluffy cat, I actually never mind it too much. So I'm going to go and enjoy this Earl Grey and soak in the gloomy spring that we have here in the UK. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed my South of France holiday vlog. If you've read any of the books that I read over this holiday time, then let me know what you thought of them as well, and if not, let me know what you've been reading lately. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.